Hey developers, welcome back. In this final video of our API series, we are going to focus entirely on Postman. As already we have used Postman briefly in earlier videos to test simple APIs. In this video, we'll cover everything from authentication types like API keys, basic auth, and barrier tokens to understanding headers and request bodies. We will also perform a full CRUD operation using an API from JSONPlaceholder and discuss response code and their meanings. The main goal is to help you understand how to effectively use Postman for API testing. So let's dive in. Let's begin with the CRUD operations. For this, we will use an API from JSON placeholders. This is a free online REST API that provides you to test without any setup. On JSON placeholder, go to the guide section, and here we will use this get API to retrieve a list of post. Open the Postman, create a new request. See, Postman provides a clean and organized interface for working with APIs. You can open multiple tabs also to manage different APIs requests simultaneously, just like in a browser. Postman supports all HTTP methods like get method, post method, put, patch, delete, and more. You can also group related API requests into a collection. It makes easier to manage them as a project. So now enter that URL here and select the method is get method, and after that click on send button. So you will see a response in JSON format with post details. Now see the response code. As we have discussed earlier, you will notice the status code is 200. That means the request was successful and the data was fetched correctly. And the Postman shows the response in these views. In the JSON view, they display the data in JSON format and making it easy to work with APIs. And the second one is preview. This shows the data in more human readable format. Both views are useful depending on what you need to analyze. Now let's move to the post method to add a new post. Get the post URL from the same and follow the guide as they mentioned. You must have noticed that it instructs adding a headers for the post request and selecting the post method. This header means that when you use the post method, you are informing to the server that application JSON, the data you are sending with the post request is in the JSON format. Let's copy this and go to the here. Change the method to the post and content type, add this header, the header, add content type, and the value will be same exactly like this. Copy this and go to the body and pass the data as a raw, like the get, sorry, change user ID from 1 to 107. Okay, and ID will be 107, and change the title with hello title, and the body will be remain same. So let's send. See, it's showing 201. That means the post method are working successfully. Also, if this feels easier for you, you can also post like this. Just enter the column name here and the value here. So now let's use a put method to update an existing post detail. So get the URL to perform the put action and follow the guide exactly as mentioned. So copy this URL, and it's saying to set the method as a put method. Paste that link here and update this to put. In the body, cancel this. In the raw, here we are adding a parameter to filter and update only the record whose ID match the parameter's value. And next, change this to hello title to title hello. That is correctly meant. Okay. See, you will get a response that confirming the record was updated successfully, and the response code here will be 200, showing that the update was processed correctly. Now the final one is delete method. So get the URL of delete method from the resource. Update the method as a delete method and set this. And this is a parameter. We are saying delete the record which ID is equal to 1. Important resource will be really updated on the server, but it will be a fake as if. Okay. Okay. See, it's showing 200 means request successfully. The server has responded as a required. So we have successfully performed a full CRUD operations. Now let's spend some time to exploring authorization means authentication types and response codes. The most common types of authentication are API key, basic authentication, and token based authentication. An API key is a unique identifier provided by the API service. It's usually sent as a query parameter in the URL. A great example of this is the weather app that we have built earlier, which uses API keys for secure access. The API key is like a secret password that you include in your request to get the data. For example, in the weather app, we have added the API key to the URL. See like this. Without the API key, the server will not respond with any data. This is a simple and widely used authentication method. Second one is basic authentication. A great example of this is a Oracle Apex, which uses basic authentication for its API. This method involves sending a username and password in a request. For instance, if we are creating a login page, you will send a user's credentials securely. In Postman, you can set up this by selecting the basic authentication and enter the username and password, and Postman will handle the rest things. And the third one is token based authentication. A great example of this is Dynamic 365, which uses token based authentication for its secure APIs. After a user login, the server generates a token which you can include in the request header like this. This token replaces the need to send the username and password every time, making it a secure and efficient method. Now, let's talk about response codes, which tell you if your API request work or not. First one is 200. Okay, everything worked perfectly. For example, in the weather app, you successfully got the temperature details. And the second one is 201 created. That means a new item was successfully added, or like where when a user sign up. And the third one is bad request. If something is wrong with your request and such a missing data. And the fourth one is 401 unauthorized. That means you did not provide the correct APIs or token. And the fifth one is 404 not found. That means the API endpoint you are trying to access doesn't exist. And the fifth one is 500 internal server error. That means there is a problem on the server side, not on your side. So in the Postman, you can easily test these authentication types and observe the response code to debug and understand how APIs works. This tool make it simple to work with APIs effectively. And that's it for today's video and for this entire API series. Throughout this series, we have explored the fascinating world of APIs, starting from understanding what they are and how they work. We have covered key concepts like request, response, authentication type, and response codes, all with real-world example to make things easier to understand. We also built a weather app that show how to fetch live data from an API step by step. Then we took a deeper dive into Postman, testing dummy APIs like the one from JSONPlaceholder and explore how to perform CRUD operation effectively. From understanding headers and request bodies to working with authentication type like API key and token, we try to cover everything to help you build a strong foundation in APIs and Postman. This was the final video of our API series and we hope it made this concept clear and practical for you. If you have followed along, you now have a solid understanding of APIs and how to test and debug them using Postman. So thank you so much for joining me in this journey. If you found this series helpful, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to ICRA Technology.